Wait, there's something you said that you can never drink responsibly.
You can never.
But if you look at the adverts going around,
Yeah.
what are we constantly told?
Drink responsibly. Drink responsibly. Yeah, I mean, not everyone is an alcoholic.
Yeah.
If we go into the definition of
Yeah.
what it is, it messes your normal functions of how your brain releases dopamine. So your brain starts understanding everything around happiness revolves around alcohol. But the only thing is that an alcoholic is simply somebody who reacts to alcohol differently.
Yeah.
That's it. So it's good that people are aware, especially young guys, that if you find you cannot handle your liquor, you're an alcoholic. It's better you make up your mind early enough to part ways. But you find society has made us want to fit in.
Yeah.
So you want to keep drinking. But you find your friends drink to a particular point, go home. Because I have friends who are doing very well. Some are doctors. I mean, why didn't they get stuck in this? Is it an issue of discipline? I don't think so. I don't think so. It's just an issue with genetics. So the better, that's why it's good to go get help. So you learn. So you stop pointing your fingers at yourself, because the whole of this time, everybody has been blaming you.
Yeah.
Because they think it's an issue of discipline.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's an issue of genetics. And it used to really frustrate me, because you're drinking with your friends, everybody's doing shots. Next thing, you don't remember the night, and you find yourself home, then you hear your story. There's a time I was on the magazine Pulse. Somebody found me on the floor, akanipiga picture. Then he put me on the Pulse magazine. Another nigger.
How was that for
it was
you?
embarrassing. It was me. I'm hearing people laughing about me. I'm wondering when I'm going to school, then I'm being told, Dan, you're on the magazine. And you don't remember that. You blacked out. I lost phones. Wow, my bro used to send me phones from the UK. Thursday, Friday, gone. Because all it takes, the brain, I think, would get to a point, and then you're still new to alcohol. Not some of the friends who I was drinking with were a bit seasoned. Walianza mapema. So the KC, you're trying to do shots with them.
Okay.
Out. So I used to black out a lot. So I used to think it's just an issue of tolerance, but it was my brain telling me this thing is not, it's foreign.
It's not good for
it's
you.
not good for us.
Yeah.
But I didn't know. And because my dad saw that, I discovered rugby, and I used to really love sports growing up. But my parents used to want to suppress that because they knew what's best for me is school.
Yeah.
But for me now as a parent, I understand there is a balance. There's this radio guy, not radio, on TV, this guy who is a musician was asked a question by the lady presenting, your parents support your music with this generation of parents? He said, yes, they do. Why? Because all my friends are in addictions. One are chewing, smoking weed.
Yes.
But when I sing, you will not find me there. So the parents are like, please sing. So those are the small things that parents need to be aware of. These extracurricular activities, they're very important, because if you deny that, you open up opportunity to vices.
Hi. Welcome to the Golden Apple Show. I am your host, Jackie Jerry. This is a safe space where we share our stories, the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, the highs and the lows of life. I keep telling people it's important to share your story, because your story could be the key to someone else's prison. Now, I have a guest with me. I got him from my friend list on Facebook. Can you imagine? So I was just looking at his profile, and I realized this guy could have a very interesting story to tell people. His story has to do with alcoholism. Before we start, when we talk matters alcoholism, we get very judgmental, we get very critical, and we give very harsh comments. What we don't understand is alcoholism is a disease of the mind and the body. And once you understand that those people who find themselves in this situation are trying to fulfill a need, then we will not have the compassion and the kindness and the empathy it needs when we are addressing them. We keep telling them, they need to stop for the sake of their children and their families. They need to stop because society expects better out of them. They need to stop because we are here for them. They've got everything that they need. Or if they wanted, they would. Let me tell you, alcoholism, you can't compare that with binge drinking. If you're a binge drinker, you can have your 2 glasses of wine or whatever it is that you're having and just go back home and feel fulfilled. For an alcoholic, it is different, because there's a need they're trying to fulfill, whether it is trying to fit in, whether it is having these heavy feelings that they cannot process, whether it is the incongruence between the ideal self and the real self. has so many things. Each person has a different story. He's a recovering alcoholic. I don't like that term too much, but as we progress, I'll tell you why I don't. So he'll invite us into his world and tell us his story, how it started, and where he is right now. Dan, karibu sana.
Asante.
Thank you for finally showing up. Na kuona tu.
We are here now.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. I'm so humbled. I'm so grateful. Like I said, I used to follow you on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I liked the openness you shared your story. Like, it's not easy. Most people want to hide behind the facade of, I woke up and found myself like this.
Yeah.
But you, in fact, there's a story you wrote. Iko story uliandika. Mpaka sijui kuna temu. Yani, it was an emotional. And I think, you know, I commented on that one.
Yes, you
that
did.
one touched my heart. Because I was like, mtu ni mreal. How hide behind the victim mentality. You're owning up to the fact that, yes, you may have made poor choices.
Yeah.
But you're not beating yourself up for it because you're picking your life and making better decisions now. But then, can I mention something?
Please.
You have a beautiful wife and beautiful kids. Imagine na wote nimewaona.
Thank you. Thank you so
Please
much.
tell us your story.
Great. So yeah, I'm a recovering alcoholic, and basically what that term means is you're trying to get back to who you were prior to the addiction. So you're in recovery. And why we use that term a lot is so it can serve as a reminder that you will never be in a position to drink responsibly. So you're always recovering. So it's important for the mind, because once you feel that you have recovered, there's a probability that you could slip back.
Wait, there's something you said that you can never drink responsibly.
You can never.
But if you look at the adverts going around, what are we constantly told?
Drink responsibly. Drink responsibly. Yeah, I mean, not everyone is an alcoholic.
Yeah.
If we go into the definition of what it is, scientifically, it is proven that there is a gene we carry. And this gene is called an X factor. Now what happens, I may not be an expert, I may not be a doctor, but from my understanding when I went in for treatment, because that's the first thing you're given knowledge. So from my understanding is that whenever you drink, this gene is activated.
So it's dormant, until
you drink. When you drink, it causes an imbalance with your dopamine release. So it causes a surge. So you, when you have your glass of wine, you're here. Me, when I have my glass of wine, me, I'm here with dopamine. So the brain loves dopamine. So I don't know when to have enough. So for you who is still here, me, I'm here. So you can stop. Me, I still keep going. And you keep telling me, Dan, why? Because it's what's going on in my brain.
Yeah.
So eventually when I black out or go to sleep, all that goes down. So you still stay here. Me, in the morning, I'm here. I'm low. So my brain wants to come back here.
Yeah.
So in my own wisdom, I'll try and toe a lock so I can get here. But still, I find myself still good. So it becomes a vicious cycle. You get. So that's who an alcoholic is. It messes your normal functions of how your brain releases dopamine. So your brain starts understanding everything around happiness revolves around alcohol. So your body starts becoming tolerant to this alcohol. You start needing to drink because they say you start with a beer, I'll only drink beers, then I'll add a shot, then reduce the beers, start taking a quarter, then I'll reduce the beers, take a half, next thing some zinger. There were times, I mean, I'd do a whole bottle and still be okay. And my wife used to complain, like, Dan, you're drinking too fast. And it was not my will, you know, the body wants. So you find that the alcohol is not enough, so you start adding other things like marijuana. So you get that high. But the effects are the same. The body will suffer a bad hangover tomorrow. You become sick. You can get hospitalized, like I got several times. And that's all just part of my story. So the truth of the matter is, you may be pointing fingers at an alcoholic, and in your family, there's somebody who is an alcoholic, meaning the gene is possibly in you.
Predisposed to it.
Predisposed to it. So your child could be an alcoholic, but the only thing is that an alcoholic is simply somebody who reacts to alcohol differently.
Yeah.
That's it. So it's good that people are aware, especially young guys, that if you find you cannot handle your liquor, you're an alcoholic. It's better you make up your mind early enough to part ways. But you find society has made us want to fit in.
Yeah.
So you want to keep drinking, but you find your friends drink to a particular point, go home. Because I have friends who are doing very well. Some are doctors. I mean, why didn't they get stuck in this? Is it an issue of discipline? I don't think so. I don't think so. It's just an issue with genetics. So the better, that's why it's good to go get help. So you learn. So you stop pointing your fingers at yourself, because the whole of this time, everybody has been blaming you.
Yeah.
Because they think it's an issue of discipline.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's an issue of genetics. So when you realize that, the truth shall set you free. Then now you purpose to strive to live in a manner that is opposite to what you used to do. That's why they say now you're recovering. Yeah.
So now if we understood all this, how come then we are so judgmental, we are so critical, we call names,
Yeah.
and we pretend like we are holier than thou? And I keep saying, for those of us who are busy pointing fingers, you're pointing one finger at someone, uko na hizi zingine zinakuangalia.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as a society, what do we need to do ndio tuache kuwa so judgmental and so critical? And because I believe everybody needs love and compassion, even those people that are struggling with different things in their lives, alcoholism being one of them.
Yeah.
Because if we don't show love and acceptance,
Yeah.
we put people on the sideline and they feel like they don't belong.
Yeah.
What do we need to do? What do we need to know ndio tuache kukua hivyo?
Two things. Number one, I think the more awareness, like institutes like NACADA will do, and I'm hoping to do with them in the future, is let's talk about addictions from a perspective that people understand. Because people normally look at addictions from different angles. Some it's religious, it's muwa merogwa, and yet it's just genetic. If NACADA organizations like that could just bring this information to people, so that will help people who are suffering out there get help, because your support system would now understand what your problem is. When I was when I was stuck in the addiction, my family didn't know. All they wanted to do was help me, but they did not understand. Well, on my mom's side, she knew. My dad, her brothers, some people in her family, this thing has put them down. So she knows it's on her side of the family.
Wow.
So for her, she didn't probably know that this is a gene. If she knew that, she'd be able to tell me out of love that, my son, it's not in your capacity to drink responsibly, and you are sick. Why are you sick? Because your brain is tuned to receiving alcohol to function.
Wow.
So, you know, these are the definitions that people need to be able to understand, so they can offer help and compassion to anybody stuck. Because it's sickness. Because if you could look at it from a diagram picture, you look at the brain, it's not functioning until something is induced, and then now the dopamine comes, and then now you're able to start doing things. But still, there's somebody who once told me, a boda guy who told me, kutoa lock sasa ndio kuweka padlock kabisa, because you drink a bit and you find you have to go on the whole day. I mean, I found myself in that, but we'll get to that. So number two is everybody needs to focus on their own weaknesses. Own up to your own weakness. When you find yourself pointing fingers too much, you're avoiding yourself.
Yeah.
Deal with your soul. Deal with your weakness. Be aware of it. When you work, that's the only thing you can do.
Yeah.
You can work on yourself. You can't change somebody else. So everybody just needs to start pointing fingers at themselves in a kind way, and deal with who you are. I think society can be better if we are all honest to who we are as individuals, our own battles. So when you see somebody is an alcoholic, you don't say, look at that person. You say, even me, I'm like, I deal with this. I deal with depression. I deal with this. I deal with this. So we are all humans with all. And then we all strive now to get help. Yeah, those are the only two things I think that can be done. Awareness, and then everybody to focus on self,
Yeah,
not
because
others.
we all have our weaknesses, and it's funny because at some point in my life I had depression.
Yeah.
I had functional depression. And that was the time I was most critical with everybody around me. I was pointing fingers at people. Huyu anafanya hivi, huyu anafanya hivi, huyu anafanya hivi, in a bit to avoid myself.
Self-escaping, yeah.
I think if we chose to introspect and understand that nobody is perfect, that nobody has it all figured out, then we will stop hii kunini sana, kumedol na affairs za watu wengine sana, because we acknowledge that we all have our weaknesses.
Yeah, very true. And what you're doing is awesome, because you have a platform to let people who are courageous enough come and talk about things that are common to mankind. So whoever is avoiding self can start realizing, you know what, I have depression issues, and that's why I don't like to deal with my issues, but point at the rest. So I've seen somebody who is talking about this. How can I help myself? Yeah, how can I get help? Because the problem with, even with addiction and alcoholism, is that you think you're alone, and you're many. And I've joined WhatsApp groups where I've seen no names, but these guys don't speak about what they have faced. And I even WhatsApp them directly, and I'm like, hey, we're friends on Facebook, and you have this show. And I'm like, you have such a platform. Why don't you say that even you've battled this? Because people will be like, even so and so. I mean, I give, what's his name? Farid Kimani, you know.
I love Farid.
Farid owned up and he said, you know what, guys, I'm a recovering alcoholic. So you don't know who you're giving hope to. And even sharing this story is not really about necessarily helping people, which is part of my cause, but it's for me as well. Each time you talk about something that God has helped you overcome, you help yourself.
Yeah.
There's a song, I've forgotten, this guy says, when you ukifanyia mtu mabaya unajifanyia. Whatever you do to others, you're doing to yourself. So if I'm doing something good for other people, it is directly also helping me. It strengthens my journey. We were told when we went into rehab, step 12, share your story. Because you're going to help somebody and you'll be helping yourself.
Yeah.
It's a constant reminder to the brain, to yourself, that this is a journey, you know. So that's why I strive to help, because it also helps me. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Thank you for affirming my work. Thank you for acknowledging my work. I'm really grateful. So I want you to invite us into your world. History alcoholism. Where or how did it start? Yeah.
Okay. My background is, I've been raised fortunately by both dad and mom, and everything starts somewhere. And my upbringing was okay. My parents did their best as far as they're concerned, but I felt maybe there was a longing to fit in out there, because we lived in a very caged sort of lifestyle, in the sense that they were protecting us, but you yearn for out there, so you wait for that opportunity. And so finally, when I finished high school, even before I finished high school, I started running from home at night when my dad would travel, so I'd go out to party, the likes of Smirnoff experience those days, then sneak back in in the morning before my mom wakes up. And so there was a need to be out there. So when I got the opportunity to do what I can, like when I decided, because it made me rebellious. When I decided to be rebellious, so even what I started doing it times 4. When you drink, you want to drink for 5 years. You want to catch up. You want to catch up. So yeah, unalipisha. But interesting thing is that when I used to go out during my high school days, it was not about the alcohol. It was about the fun. It was about dancing. I remember a Smirnoff experience. When I finally got there, I couldn't find my friends. We didn't have mobile phones then. They had just come into the market. I remember standing on a speaker. Jackie, I danced the whole night. The other day over New Year's, I was looking at these Somali guys who came to where we were at a hotel, and they were dancing. Me, I thought they were sober, but I hear those guys take their own things because they don't drink alcohol. But they danced. And one thing I realized is that many of us can't dance anymore because alcohol has spoiled that.
Yeah, the confidence haiko.
So you need to have a drink and your movement in a calm. So then, without alcohol, without anything, just like the same way you see a baby just dancing, I would enjoy that. And that's what recovery is now, because nowadays I can sort of move, to music without the influence of alcohol.
Yeah.
So this is some of the things that alcohol does, but we don't see it. We just call it social drinking.
Yeah.
So anyways, so I started drinking. I went to St. Mary's after Form 4. I went to St. Mary's IB, but I didn't finish it because my dad saw that I discovered rugby, and I used to really love sports growing up. But my parents used to want to suppress that because they knew what's best for me is school.
Yeah.
But for me now as a parent, I understand there is a balance. There's this radio guy, not radio, on TV, this guy who is a musician was asked a question by the lady presenting, your parents support your music with this generation of parents? He said, yes, they do. Why? Because all my friends are in addictions. One are chewing, smoking weed.
Yes.
But when I sing, you will not find me there. So the parents are like, please sing. So those are the small things that parents need to be aware of. Let these extracurricular activities, they're very important, because if you deny that, you open up opportunity to vices. Yeah. So when I left St. Mary's, though at St. Mary's that's where the drinking started, the opportunities I had to go out, though there was a lot of restriction, I overdrank. I remember even during Black Rock when I was playing rugby, when we finished and we won, hey, I drank. I remember drinking a glass of vodka. I remember serving a glass this full, and I flashed it, like I wanted to catch up. The night is short, and that was it for me. I blacked out. I became baggage to my friends that whole night. I didn't enjoy the night, and now the brain has already tested. There's this thing. It makes us react like this. So the incidences in St. Mary's were not many because of restrictions and controls by the parents, but I still yearned for it. Then we went to USIU. Now USIU, the party started on Thursday, because that's when most people finished class, and there was the bar there outside school. It wasn't too expensive, so you could save up for it, or your friends would buy it. Me, my parents would not fund that, so you had to find a way. We used to drink the Kenya cane. So it started like that. Every Thursday you drink, then you overdo it, you find yourself sleeping at your friends on Friday, you wake up and you want to do it again. But then it still didn't look like a problem, it looked like fun. And that's where we need to have such talks. But the problem is, even such talks, how do you get people to come and listen? Because I can imagine for me, I would have considered that a boring talk. But it's very important that we sensitize the youth, find a way that could attract them to come and listen to these discussions. So that went on, every Thursday. But one thing that helped me is that I realized I can't play sports, but there's a gym. I used to love gym from high school. I was introduced in high school to Kwatona Beba. We used to carry stones. So chuma na mawe. And we were passionate about it. Little did we know that this was a good foundation for us. And that's why I take my kids to the gym now, so it can get into their mental that this is good. Exercise is key. It's a pillar in your life. So in USIU, I would balance it off. If I overdid it over the weekend, Monday when I depart a gym, and that's how I used to remove the alcohol, the excess of it.
So
and we were young.
At that time, even if you had your own definition of fun, which included, hanging out with your friends and drinking, it still had not taken a toll on you. You were still okay.
We were still okay. We were still young. We could stay without the drink. But when we would drink, I would go in excess.
All
the way until I black out. I used to black out a lot. And it used to really frustrate me, because you're drinking with your friends, everybody's doing shots. Next thing, you don't remember the night, and you find yourself home, then you hear your story. There's a time I was on the magazine Pulse. Somebody found me on the floor, akanipiga picture. Then he put me on the Pulse magazine. Another nigger.
How was that for
it was
you?
embarrassing. It was me. I'm hearing people laughing about me. I'm wondering when I'm going to school, then I'm being told, Dan, You're on the magazine. And you don't remember that. You blacked out. I lost phones. Wow, my bro used to send me phones from the UK. Thursday, Friday, gone. Because all it takes, the brain, I think, would get to a point. And then, you're still new to alcohol. Not some of the friends who I was drinking with were a bit seasoned. Walianza mapema. So the KC, you're trying to do shots with them. Out. So I used to black out a lot. So I used to think it's just an issue of tolerance, but it was my brain telling me this thing is not, it's foreign.
It's not good for you.
It's not good for us.
Yeah.
But I didn't know. And everybody was drinking. So would balance it out with gym. Because when I gym, I'd have healthy conversations in my mind. I'd be like, Dan, how much do you have? How are you feeling? Feeling fantastic. You've lifted heavy weights finally. Yes. Si tuende tukule, we go and eat some chapati and dengu and go home. Sounds like a plan. And then I'd go home. And I'd even leave people. And would walk straight, would avoid the bar. But then there was also marijuana, which we felt was an okay drug to have. So we would smoke it, especially when I moved close to university, like every day. If it wasn't there, something was missing. We needed a high. But we were young and we thought that's part of life.
To experiment. We'll outgrow this.
But we're just creating dependencies that, we didn't know. We didn't know about. So that went on for a while. And to be honest, I believe my education, I would have done so much better if I knew that this was the enemy. If I had a mentor who understood, because your parents can talk to you, but you think that's just their job.
They're lecturing you.
Yeah. But if you had somebody you could talk to who would tell you, I understand, and then he gives you a solution.
Yeah.
Not a control, like you cannot, thou shalt not, no. Just somebody who can walk with you and make you understand the journey you're on that is unique to the rest.
Yes.
For your own good.
Yeah.
There are times when I would sober up and keep away from the bottle and I would do so well in class, but immediately I touch it, it's down a slippery slope. So that's how it was for uni, and I thank God I was able to finish, Jackie. I'm telling you, there are some guys I know who didn't finish, and we took longer than usual. Because the time my dad was like, Daniel, I'm not paying fees.
Oh my God.
Take a semester off and decide what you want, because this is my money. Of course, it's his money.
It's his money, and it's not cheap.
It's not cheap, decide what you want. Take a semester off, rethink things. So I took a semester off, and when I came back, I tried again to make sure I finished school. Humbled myself to do courses that I had ignored, even though I was a fourth year. Still went and did some first year courses, finished them, and I was able to graduate. But even as I was graduating, when I was doing my internship, I was still stuck in a problem. I was living with guys who were maybe in their third year, and every day after work would drink cheap alcohol. If not cheap alcohol, would smoke weed. And of course that means in the morning you're tired. And I mean, I never gave my internship my best because of the substance.
It's very bold of you to acknowledge that.
Yeah. And the thing is, this idea of it's still fun, you can justify it for very long. You can justify it for very long, but it was a problem. So after we graduated, got a job. Now I'm starting to talk about my CV.
22.
So I got a job at a call center. But the reason why I needed a job was to maintain the freedom I had in Roysambu. We had a house. That's what we wanted. A place of our own. Because we were already too used to it. You can imagine going back to controls at home.
Doesn't sound ideal.
But it was not possible. That call center didn't work out. And the house went. So I went into staying with a friend. Then I got a job at EABL. Just a EABL. Now, they called us trade developers. Now, trade developers, we came during the Mutuzo time. Now, what they wanted was to push sales during that period that alcohol was allowed. So we're pushing for the purchase of spirits. Because beer wasn't bringing in profits. Beer needs a whole night. So if the bars are being closed at this time, encourage people to buy spirits so they can even carry it home. So that was our work. So you have a lot of liquor in the car. selling. So I used to be drunk the whole time. You wake up in the morning and you feel it's normal because it's what is said on TV. It's these advertisements, you know, that has normalized us as a drinking nation.
Yeah.
Mbili mbili kama kawaida. You know,
For the road,
two for
one
the road.
sijui
Yeah.
nini.
You feel like it's normal. So if anybody tells you you're drinking too much, you're like, no, Ajay, I can work. I can do this, you know.
Actually, you know, we have many functional alcoholics.
Yeah. Many. My friend gave me an interesting way to look at it. So you have a rich uncle and a poor uncle.
Oh.
Both of them are alcoholics. But the rich uncle will not be condemned because he has money.
No, and they are drinking expensive stuff,
liquor. But the poor uncle will be pointed at
kumi.
because Anna. So where do we draw the line? It's still alcoholism. So as much as you're rich or you have money and you're an alcoholic, just imagine if you are not one. That means you're still living below your capacity. That's one thing I came to realize. So anyways. So we were at EABL. Yeah. So I worked at Kirinyaga. And God took care of me. You know, the problem with what religion has done is that it makes us forget who God is. And God is nature. God is everything. God is the energy behind everything. God is the spirit that loves us, that wants well for us. The one that keeps you from dying. And you could have died many times, you know, because he has a plan for you. But we fail to acknowledge that. And I feel one day you'll be shown how many attempts on your life were there that you didn't even know of. But he took care of you. So God took care of me, and I can confidently say that because you need an experience to understand God. Otherwise, it's all nonsense.
Yeah.
So he took care of me. There are times I would drive from Kirinyaga to Nairobi to come and sleep in Roysambu, and I'm driving at like 160. And I've drunk this alcohol called Kenya King. It was in a plastic container. I've drunk 4 in the course of the day, and I've added beer. I've eaten a little lunch because it corrodes your stomach, so you don't have the appetite. I drive. And that time I had a car hire. I was assisted by my could have been brother-in-law. He passed. He was also an alcoholic. And God took care of me. I know there are incidences I could have died. Just one tire burst. Apple. Ningekuwa nimeenda. I am sure. But I didn't die. And so from Kirinyaga I was moved to Kisii. I made all the efforts to try and have a car because the job required a car.
Yeah.
I tried fixing my dad's old car with the help from my brother. And when the car was a little functional, I was called to the office when I was about to travel to Kisii. I was going to travel to Kisii with a car that doesn't have a handbrake.
Aish, that's risky.
Side mirror. It was. I just wanted to work for EABL because I was like, if I don't have a job,
Tarudi home.
I'll be home. And I go back to what? So when I was called to the office, I remember my boss. I just stood next to him. Akasema, hey, what are you drinking? Imagine, mtu wa EABL anakuuliza wewe, what are you drinking? Because I was reeking, makali, hard stuff, second generation.
Second generation ni gani hizo?
You know, they say there's the first generation which is actually made from, let's say fruit, like from real plants, you know, like barley, you know, like what makes vodka, potatoes. That's first generation. Second generation is chemical, kwa lab. Chemical. I used to always tell people, this is chemical. It's not a glass of milk. No. So second generation has worse effects because it's just simply chemicals put together and you're given. And a lot of that is going on nowadays, you know.
Zinatengenezwa kariobangi.
Telling you the things we put in our bodies. So, boss told me, you have not reported to Kisii, job over. I was sad.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I went to my friend's place, hid for a few days. When you were drinking Kenya King, my dad told me, bring the car back home, I need it. So I went back home. And now I was trying to figure out what next. So I'd apply for jobs. and when I get a bit of money, I'd go and chew mogoka. Now, mogoka was introduced by a friend of mine. Even him, he was in it because it was a good way of coping with the reality of life. First, it's available, it's cheap. It's not cheap because you have to buy more things to support it. You have to buy cigarettes, you have to buy soda, you have to buy water.
Big G.
Big G, and then after that, you need to put it off with a drink. Otherwise, you'll be awake till 5. So, I used to chew. I started chewing more because it used to make me relax. But you see, the thing about chewing mogoka is that it makes you forget that life is what it is. Your reality. You're jobless. You have a degree. You haven't settled down. You don't have a home. You don't have this. So it makes you forget that, and it makes you know that everything will be okay. But that's not what life should be. Life should be my problems, but they are temporary. So my plan is, in a sober state, I'm going to do this and this a day at a time, and slowly I will overcome these obstacles. That's what recovery is.
Yeah.
You know, understanding that you have found yourself in a hole. Let's now get out of that hole a day at a time. It's possible. Not looking at the big picture of where you are, but on the small steps you can take to get out. Yeah, so that's EABL. So I finally got a mogoka introduction.
Kwa hivyo mogoka ilianzia hapo.
Ilianzia hapo. And it was very friendly to me. It actually helped me. I'm sorry to say this, but it's the truth. Mogoka helped me. I'd have died from alcoholism because it became part of me. I used to chew like every day. Mimi nilikuwa nasomea watu wana kunywa pombe. Wacheni leo pombe. It's not good. Kuleni kitu, you know.
It's like it's the lesser evil.
It's a lesser evil.
Yeah.
Perfect words. It's the lesser evil. But it came with its they call it cross addiction. It helped in the sense that I preserved myself because my body was breaking down.
Yes.
And I got a job at Crown Paints. My dad connected me to somebody. I went for an interview for accounts, and they were like, this guy is not accounts, this guy is sales. And they called me for another one. I got a good job at Crown Paints. Man, that job was good, but nilichoma. Nilichoma. These guys would send me, I mean, there are days I was so confident. Before I go to the office, I pass by a place, I have a beer. Then I go to the office, because I'm hungover.
Lazima utoe lock.
Lazima nitoe lock, otherwise I'll not be me. And my boss noticed this guy has a problem, but he thought I was here to have fun. So every time they would send me to Rwanda, because they used to fly me to Rwanda, Burundi, Congo. Namkana breakfast, there's not a breakfast of kings. That thing is bad, but breakfast of kings, beer. Because you feel you have the money, unaanza na beer. Now, you know, of course, when you drink that, you already spoil your linings of the stomach. So your appetite gone. You're not going to really eat. So, I could have done so much for Crown Paints. But I didn't even last more than 3 months before they let me go. Because of the drinking, the habits, you know, it was too much. And then I used to chew every day. So if you chew every day, now singizi, you get your sleep at 5 o'clock. When you're supposed to be waking up. You cannot work. You'll be tired the whole day. So after losing Crown Paints, that's now when I hit rock bottom. Now my parents live in Gataka. I don't know if you know Gataka.
No.
Hey, mtu hapa, you don't know Gataka? Gataka is just behind Cooperative. You know Cooperative?
Oh, guy.
Gataka. Hapo tu nyuma. So, when they moved there, it was still very rural, undeveloped. So going home was like traveling, shags. You know? So I never used to like that. And whenever I was home, getting out needed money. Like you needed a border, then you need this amount of money. So if I could get out, I'd try and find a place I can stay, do as much as I can before I come back. So I started staying with my friends who live in Langata. So I used to go there for the sake of, on Fridays. But during the week at home, I'd lock myself in the room, watch movies, and smoke a lot of weed. Now weed was my high, because it was accessible. And gosh, this story is long. Let me try and make sure it's
Kuna
organized.
time endelea. Sindio?
So living in Langata, so I'd leave, go spend at my friends, would drink inside their house, would try and go out, but I don't have money.
So who was financing you?
You'd go and you're like a peasant in a club, you know, just because you don't want to miss out. And it used to make me feel bad, because you remember the days of uni, how ladies used to really penda your story, and then now over here, umekonda kwanza, you've not had a meal, sijui tangu what time, and you've been drinking just hard liquor. So it was a downtime for me, and I used to really hide. Staying with these guys. At times I'd go home. Now, my parents used to be really worried. They'd be like, what's up with Dan? How do we help him? Because most of the times I was stoned. I was just high on weed or high on something. But it was an escape. It was an escape that you have an addiction, you're jobless, hauna ene.
So at this point, you were aware that you were struggling with addiction?
No. The days I'd go without the drink, but I'd use weed. But I didn't know.